Hello again, and what is hip? And here is yet another pickups video. Now, I know my last pickups video was like 2 months ago, but here's some insider information that was actually recorded like 3 months prior to the upload date. I've just been so behind on everything, so really this is about 5-ish months or so of pickups, and I was good for the most part. I didn't go out of my way to just buy everything. I've been trying to kind of settle down a little bit with the purchasing because my backlogs are huge, and I'm also I don't have a whole bunch of space, seeing how I live in a small city apartment. So I've been pretty good on that front, except this past month there have been so many releases and there have just been so many deals where I'm just like, oh man, I've wanted this for a while. And so I ended up purchasing it. So this is a pretty decent sized pickups video, so let's just jump right into it. We'll start with the modern stuff first. Specifically the Switch. The Switch is always, it's not my favorite Nintendo console, but for some reason I just games keep falling into my basket. I have no idea how this happens, but with the Switch 2, being rumored to be coming out in the next 5 or 6 months, Nintendo has been popping out releases like crazy, man. And not just, remakes and everything. There's some really solid releases here. So the first of which is Super Mario Party Jamboree, and I'm a huge fan of the Mario Party series. The Switch releases I have not been fond of. Even the last one, I think it was Super Mario Party Superstars or something like that, where they remade a whole bunch of N64 boards, wasn't my favorite. But this one, oh, they stepped up their game, let me tell you. My favorite game in the series is Mario Party 4, and I really do think that is due to nostalgia primarily. The best Mario Party, in my opinion, I think technically is Mario Party 6. It's just an amazing game. I even go as far to say it's a perfect game. This comes pretty darn close. The new boards are fantastic. I had some friends over here for a little early Halloween party, and we got together, we played Jamboree. They had never played Mario Party before, but it was still so much fun, and the difficulty in this game is, I think, just the right amount. I could always go for a little harder, but it's not super easy like the past Switch Mario Party games have been. And a star is 20 coins, which is how much a star should be. But Super Mario Party Jamboree has been great, multiplayer and single player, and I'm actually getting the itch to go back and play this some more. Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII Remastered physically on the Switch. This has been on my to-get list for quite a long time, but I never ended up getting it. But I saw it on sale on I think PNP Games or VGP, and it was like 20 bucks, and I was like, I can't pass that up. I own both of these digitally and on the PlayStation 1, played through them all, so I'll probably keep this sealed, but it's super nice to have a physical release of 2 wonderful ports on the Switch. This is a game I have wanted for years. This is Dokapon Kingdom Connect. And for those of you who don't know, Dokapon Kingdom is like a Monopoly, Mario Party, RPG. It's a very strange combination of games. But it's a game that originally, I believe, came out on the PlayStation 2, and it's had some ports and stuff in the past. There's one on the Wii. This is the most recent of them all, and all of those old Dokapon Kingdom games are always so expensive, and I've never been able to justify the price. But I got this on sale for $40. I do think this will be a harder to find Switch game in the not so far future, but I've heard great things about this. I'm super excited to delve into this. I'm gonna wait till I get some friends together before I open this up, but it's a game that is very, very unique, and that's a breath of fresh air in the kind of party game genre. Speaking of games that are hard to find, I got Trine Ultimate Collection, the physical edition, and this comes with Trine 1 through 4 physically on the cart. And before this was just put out by VGP Games and THQ Nordic. But before this, there was a GameStop exclusive of trying 1 through 3 physically on Switch, and it became like one of the most expensive Switch games of all time, like a couple $100 and plus. I wasn't about to spend that, but then I saw that they came out with this, which has the 4th game on it as well. For, I think you could get this and Trine 5 as a combo pack for like $50. So that was a no-brainer for me. So I now own Trine 1 through 5 on Switch. I've never actually played any of the Trine games, but I've heard some really great things about it. It's a very fantasy-like setting. It looks like a lot of fun, and I'm excited to eventually delve into these at some point. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. This was, as I'm sure many of you know, super cheap. This game always goes on sale. But I found out recently that they're going to stop producing physical carts of this, and it's going to be code in the box, which is horrible. So I wanted to delve on a physical release before they switch to the code in the box, because I've actually never played any of the Mario and Rabbids games. I've heard great things about them. I'm a tactical RPG fanatic, so it's right up my alley, and I heard that Sparks of Hope is definitely the more fleshed out of the Mario and Rabbids series. It looks like a lot of fun, looks very funny, and yeah, also excited to delve into this at some point. Oh boy, this is the game that I was extremely skeptical of when it was first announced, but I did hold out hope, and I'm glad I did, because it has surpassed all of my expectations, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. And I've been playing this, and I've been having a blast. Link's Awakening, the remake on the Switch, is one of my favorite Zelda games of all time. The graphical style they chose, the instrumentation they did for the remade tracks of the original, just, I mean, it called out to me, and this is just an extension of that, except in a whole brand new Hyrule and a brand new story featuring our Princess Zelda. And just looking at the reveal trailers and seeing how fighting worked, I was very skeptical. I was like, this isn't going to be fun. It's going to be very cumbersome. But after getting my hands on it, I can confidently say that the fighting system is unique, can be slightly annoying at times, but it's actually very well thought out in a lot of ways, and I have a lot of fun experimenting with different ways to going about solving quests and beating enemies, and the bosses are some of my favorite bosses in the series. I really have to think about how I'm going to go about defeating these guys with having no stereotypical sword or weapon that you can use for a prolonged amount of time. But it's a fantastic game. I'm having so much fun with it. It really does feel like the Breath of the Wild of the 2D Zeldas. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, since Breath of the Wild is not my favorite iteration of Zelda. But I think this does the perfect mix of Breath of the Wild and kind of more straight ahead Zelda games, where it's not super open-ended. But yes, a wonderful, wonderful game, and I'm so excited to get more into it. Sea of Stars, yet another RPG. Now, I've been looking forward to the physical release of this for a very long time. It came out digitally a while ago, but it only came out physically recently, relatively recently, earlier this year, so I was holding out for the physical release. I played 30 minutes of it, and more games came out, and my focus went to them. So I haven't played much of this, but the art style really is beautiful, and I'm very, very excited to delve further into this, because Chrono Trigger, like many of you I'm sure, is one of my favorite experiences of all time, and this is very much a love letter to that in many, many ways. Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. This has been a slightly controversial release. A lot of people believe that this is very content light and not worth the price of admission, and there are a lot of people who really do enjoy this. I have not played it yet, but I am a very big fan of the NES Remix series that came out on the Wii U, and this seems relatively close to that. I'm not a speedrunner by any means, and this really seems to be something for speedrunners, but still cool to have. As you can see, I have the little golden cart that came with this, which I thought was kind of fun. Honestly, to be honest, I probably won't delve into this, but it's still cool to have. Dragon Quest Monsters. This is one I've had my eye on for a while, and I never wanted to pay full retail for this, but it dropped in price, and I thought it looked interesting. I love the Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior series, and this is kind of a unique spin on it, and yeah, it looks interesting. I don't know if I'll get to it, but cool to have nonetheless. Alright, so on to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox games. So this is one I'm very excited to break into, and this is Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven, and this is a remake of the original Romancing Saga 2 that came out, I believe, on the Super Nintendo, or the Super Famicom, only in Japan, and this has been getting amazing reviews. I have Romancing Saga 3, I haven't played too much into it, but this one, everyone says, is kind of the one where you should start, and it's a game that I think it takes place across several generations of kingdoms, or kings and queens and all of that. You have a lineage, and it's very, very intriguing to me, and it's also just really wonderful knowing that a game like this, a game that is so old school in its roots, can come out and receive critical acclaim and not be this action adventure RPG, but rather a more turn-based old school RPG experience. It's just really wonderful to know, and I'm hoping that we continue getting these kinds of releases and eventually get new experiences rather than remakes and remasters. But for now, definitely not complaining about this remake, and I am so excited to delve into this. Sonic and Shadow Generations. I have been playing this. I've been very much enjoying my experience. I have not delved into the Shadow part yet, which is my most anticipated part of this game. I am going to play through the original Sonic Generations first, but Shadow, I have such many fond memories. Just reading into the lore of Shadow when I was a kid. I was obsessed with it. I had the old Archie comics that I would read through as well, and I'd get every single month. And Shadow the Hedgehog on the GameCube, I was obsessed with. I loved that game. For some reason, it was not the kind of game that I would normally enjoy either, but it was just the lore of Shadow the Hedgehog that really kept me intrigued, and looking back now, that lore is definitely kind of cheesy, but it always will hold a place in my heart, because I was very into it when I was younger, and I'm so excited to see what they've done with the Shadow storyline in this game, because I mean, to my knowledge, we haven't really gotten a Shadow-centered experience since Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, around then. Maybe there was something after, but it's been quite a long time. He deserves his spot in the spotlight, and I'm excited to continue playing through this. Okay, so VGP was having a big sale, and in that sale was House of Ashes on the PlayStation 5 for like $7. I wasn't going to pass that up, and I needed to get some more things to qualify for free shipping. However, I will never play this. I can't stand horror games. It's really unfortunate because I love the stories of them. I can't get myself to sit through and play a game. I can watch, and that's primarily what this game is going to be for. I'll have maybe some friends over and I'll watch them play, but I absolutely cannot play by myself because I would never get past the first room because my eyes would be covered by my hands. Yeah, House of Ashes, I've heard good things about this. I played a little bit of Until Dawn, the original, and again, I got maybe 10 minutes in, and then I had to stop. It's too much for me. So also in that sale was Valkyria Revolution, and this was $7 as well. This is on the Xbox One, and it's not every day I get an Xbox game. They're usually very far and few between, and when I do get Xbox games, they're usually old Xbox One games that I found on sale for like $7. But this, I believe, is a remake or a remaster of one of the first Valkyria Chronicles. I could be very wrong on that, but I've heard great things about this, and this has actually been on my list of games to play alongside Valkyria Chronicles 2, which I also got a part of that sale. However, I think this comes before in the timeline, so I definitely want to delve into this one first. I've heard great things about this game as well, both of which are kind of unique spins on the tactical RPG genre. Again, heard great things, and I'm excited to delve into both of those at some point. Dishonored 2, this was $3.99, so I said I will buy it. I've never played Dishonored before, but again, I've heard good things about the series, and I've heard really great things about this game. However, upon doing some Googling, because I was going to pop this in yesterday, they said that it's best if you play Dishonored 1 first to get a better understanding of the story. So, unfortunately, I might hold off on this game until I eventually try the first in the series, but it looks like it's some sort of game where you play as an assassin, and maybe there's some kind of stealth, almost looks Assassin's Creed-y. I could be wrong, but yeah, Dishonored 2. And I also was on the hype train for this Astrobot. I played the tech demo that came with my PlayStation 5, and I fell in love with that. This is more of the same and then some. It is a beautiful game. It is a love letter to the 3D platforming genre, and in so many ways it does things that even Mario Odyssey and Mario 64 couldn't pull off. It's so extremely charming, and I have a smile on my face every time I pop this game in. I'm not super far, but I've played several hours and I'm loving every second of it. It's so fun seeing all of the little cameos of the old PlayStation characters, though it is kind of sad because you're also just like, why aren't you guys making games with these old characters that you're referencing in here? Are they forever meant to be just a reference of the past? I do not know. But yeah, a wonderful game. That's all there is to say. And Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, another game I didn't want to spend full price on, and eventually it dropped down to like $15 or $20, and I've heard great things about this, a Metroidvania kind of thing. Prince of Persia is a series I've never personally played before. I didn't have much interest in it, but this had so many great reviews that I decided that I should pick it up and potentially give it a try. I don't know when that will be, but I'm excited to have this a part of my collection anyway, and I'm so sad that I believe they shut down the studio that made this game, which is really, really quite a shame, because we need more games like these coming from AAA studios, because it seems like every passing day, AAA studio becomes more and more vanilla, and yeah, we need some of those original, unique experiences. So, moving on to the retro part of this pickups. This was definitely a very, very big part of my last several months. I got lots of retro stuff, and I'm excited to share all these with you. So, again, it's been about 5-ish months or so since I recorded my last pickups, so I'm sure I'm missing some things that I have gotten, but, well, that's what it is. So, Shining Force 2, and this was a fun experience. I was recently up in Vermont doing some jazz camp stuff, and I was driving around, and I had never really driven around the New England area before, and I found this old village. They're called villages, which is also completely new to me, and it was like founded in 1700, which is insane. And there was this old little retro video game store, and I met the owner. I forget what his name was, but he was a super cool guy. We sat and talked for a while, and I found this loose copy of Shining Force, which had a dead battery, but I ended up getting that replaced. He cut me a really, really great deal on this, and not in the best condition, but again, I don't really care about condition if I can get it for a good price. But I also just got it loose. I never buy loose Genesis cartridges. That's usually my rule, but the price was just too good to pass up on this, and this is a game, again, that I've been really, really wanting to play, and I've played many hours of this, let me tell you, and I am loving every second of it. The Genesis has never been one of my favorite consoles, due mainly to the fact that there is so little RPG representation on the system. However, the ones that it does have are really just wonderful, and this is no exception. This is such a fun kind of Fire Emblem-like experience, and it's also really cool because you're playing this strategy RPG, but you're also a part of this big overworld, so you can go and visit towns over and over again. You can backtrack, go to towns that you've been to before. And usually there's not going to be too many new things there, but a lot of the times there'll be some new dialogues and maybe some new secrets as well. The music is also really great, and this game is balls to the wall hard. Oh my goodness. But I've been having a blast going through this game, and I think I'm about a little over halfway through. I could be wrong. But yeah, a really, really wonderful game, and one that I highly recommend. It's a part of a lot of Genesis compilations as well, so you can get it for the cheap on those, and I would highly recommend that you give it a try. Oh boy, Sega Sports. Golf Magazine presents 36 Great Holes starring Fred Couples. I did a Halloween special on this last week, and I'll put the link here. Now, contrary to my Halloween special, and I said this towards the end of that, it's actually really not that bad of a game. It's actually decently enjoyable as far as these older golf games go. It's very, for the most part, instantaneous. There's not too many load screens, which again is one of my biggest problems with some of these older golf games, especially with the Sega CD and the Sega Saturn. The graphics look alright, but they do that kind of photorealistic thing where they use like real life footage of people, of Fred, and it just doesn't really hold up nowadays. Another reason why I don't really care for these older golf games, but it's actually pretty fun, and if you are a fan of golf games, you can't really go too wrong with this, especially on the 32X. Not too many good games for that system, and you know what, this is an alright game. And I bought it brand new for like 25 bucks, which was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to unbox that on that video. I'm classifying Sonic Lost World on the Wii U as retro. Call me crazy, but then you realize that the Wii U came out like, I don't know, over 10 years ago. So we're getting older, whether we like it or not. And again, that's Sonic Lost World. I've wanted this game for years, and it's always been around that $30 mark, and I couldn't bring myself to spend that much. I eventually found it for $15, and that's where I kind of decided to take the plunge. I popped this in yesterday or 2 nights ago, and I played about an hour and a half of it, and the whole time I kept thinking of the Sega Saturn. It just reminds me of a game that would have come out on the Sega Saturn. It is such a unique experience, and I'm thinking about maybe delving into this game a little bit more on a video. But I'm having a pretty good time with it. There's some definitely clunky parts of this, but the gameplay is so fascinating, and the graphics really, really hold up well. Okay, moving on to my only NES pickup, and again, I also, alongside like the Xbox, I very rarely pick up Nintendo Entertainment System games, and when I do, it's always an exciting experience, because even though it's not my favorite system, the system did play a huge part in my childhood, introducing me to the likes of Dragon Warrior and Super Mario 3, one of my favorite games of all time. And every time I pick up an NES game, it reminds me of that. And I found Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles complete in box on the NES for, I think I paid 30 bucks for this. I don't really know what the going prices of these games are, but I figured finding any complete in box NES game for 30 bucks is a decent enough deal. And I've never played any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. I've seen the live action movies, the old ones from the 90s, but that's pretty much it. So I have very little knowledge of the series, but I know people love this series. I know they came out with a bunch of these games on the NES. I don't know which ones are good, if they're all good. But just looking at the back here, you can see some like top-down perspective and some side-scrolling sections, so it looks like it's pretty varied, so that's pretty cool. I'm excited to pop this in and give it a play. Now, I got this off eBay, and the seller included this, and I don't think this is an official TMNT thing. I'm assuming it's maybe something they recorded back in the day, I don't know, but it's this green cassette tape with like purple splatter, and it seems like it's done like a craft or something, a home craft. And I don't have a cassette deck here with me in New York. I have one back in Oregon, so I need to get one because I am so extremely curious as to what is on here. Maybe it's just recorded audio of TMNT, maybe it's something completely different, maybe it's something inappropriate. I have no idea, but it was kind of fun to see this in the package. It was completely unexpected, and I very much love it when those kinds of things happen. So this is a fun one. This is Slave Zero for the Dreamcast, and this is brand new. It's not an expensive game by any means. I got this for like 15 bucks. But I recently made a video of me playing through every Sega Dreamcast demo disc, and one of the games that I played on there was Slave Zero, and I had a very decent time with it. I had a good time with it, and I found this, and I was like, this is really cool. I might open this, I might not, I don't know. But yeah, I had a good time playing Slave Zero on the Dreamcast, and potentially looking forward to popping this open and playing some more, or maybe getting another copy and playing it that way. But it's always kind of cool to get these old sealed games. I'm not a sealed collector by any means, but whenever I see one for cheap, it is kind of fun. And like with my 32X Fred Couples thing, it's also a really cool experience opening these old games and just experiencing maybe what you missed out on growing up. So it's always kind of fun to do that. Another sealed game, again, this was like 15 bucks. It's on the Vita. It's Hot Shots Golf World Invitational. I have played this game before, and I was a very big fan of it. I love the Hot Shot Golf series in general, and I haven't played much of this, but I wanted to play some more, and I might get another copy. I might open this, I don't know. But it's always, again, kind of cool having a sealed PlayStation Vita game. So this is a relatively unknown RPG, and it's a relatively unknown Squaresoft RPG at that, and that is Threads of Fate. And people don't talk about this. It's not crazy expensive, but it is jumping up there in price. So I wanted to get it now, and basically it is, shall I say, an RPG light. There's a game that recently came out, or was re-released on the Switch, and that's called Rhapsody, and I played through that. And for those of you who don't know, Rhapsody was also a PS1 RPG, but it was known for being a very easy RPG, one where you didn't have to think too much. You can just kind of play through the game and have a good experience. That is supposedly what this is like. It is not a hard RPG, but rather it is meant to be just an enjoyable experience where you don't have to grind, where you don't have to explore mindlessly trying to find hidden secrets. And you know, I'm at a point in my life right now where there's so much going on where my mind is not able to focus on these big RPGs. I got Metaphor ReFantazio, spoiler alert, that's also in this video. I'm loving it, but again, it's just so big and I can't keep myself focused, and I love it. I love the game and I love Japanese RPGs. And so again, I'm just at this point where I just need to have some mindless fun, and that's where this game comes in. I've played a little bit of it, not too much, but I'm having a good time. And I'm looking forward to kind of playing through the whole thing, and I think I will, because it is a relaxing experience in a lot of ways. Now, moving on to the last pile of retro games here, I got a copy of Bart vs. the Juggernaut on the Game Boy. It came with the cartridge as well. The box is empty and there's no manual, but it was so cheap. It was like $25 or something like that. I played a little bit of it. I don't really understand it. It's a little confusing. Definitely something where I need to read the manual to kind of understand what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's always cool to add a Game Boy box to the collection, because these are boxes that I very rarely ever come across. And another sealed game. I know, but there's a reason why I got this one. This is Final Fantasy IV Advance, and this is brand new on the Game Boy Advance. And the reason I got this was because Final Fantasy IV was the Final Fantasy game that really introduced me to the Final Fantasy series. I had Final Fantasy IV on the Nintendo DS. I fell in love with it. I remember going on YouTube watching people do Let's Plays of the old Super Nintendo version, which at that time I did not have, and I always thought it looked so cool seeing this game that I experienced on the DS in this old 16-bit way. And again, I love Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy IV so much that I wanted to add this sealed game to the collection, just because one, the box art is stunning, and two, it's just a kind of representation of my love for the series. I paid $70 for this. I have no idea if that's a good deal or not, but in my mind I was thinking, if you're able to get a brand new Game Boy Advance game for pretty much the same price as a brand new PlayStation 5 game nowadays, that's a pretty good deal. And you know, these old Game Boy Advance games you can find brand new sealed for under $100. Now, I mean, $100 is a lot of money, but when you think of it relatively compared to a bunch of these older systems, finding brand new sealed RPGs, 16-bit RPGs for under $100 is nearly unheard of. I mean, it's usually several $100s and up. I feel like the Game Boy Advance is kind of the last system where we can find these old 16-bit gems for a relatively affordable price, brand new. And again, it's just kind of cool having a sealed Game Boy game in the collection. I mean, I grew up with the Game Boy Advance, and you have no idea how badly I want to pop this open. And another thing too that I like about these old sealed Game Boy Advance games is if you get them for so cheap, $60-$70, opening up, you're not losing too much value if you were to open these. You know, I think you could find a complete in-box copy for around $40-$50. So equivalent to a brand new game, opening up a sealed brand new game. So who knows, maybe I'll open this up, maybe I won't. I've heard this version actually has a lot of glitches and definitely not the best version in regards to that, but it does have a lot of extra content that you can only find on the Game Boy Advance version. So we'll see. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but that box art is stunning. Moving on to the Sega Saturn. Now, for those of you who are new, I am a huge fan of rental video game copies. I love copies of video games from rental stores like Blockbusters and stuff. I love them. I don't care if the condition is bad. It's just, I love them because they're cool, and I love them because they're also cheap. And I got Heimdall on the Sega Saturn, and this is an old Blockbuster copy, which is really cool. $19.99 is what it was back then, and that's also what I paid for it today. It's definitely not in the best of shape. I honestly actually probably overpaid for it a little bit. But this is a game I had never heard of before. I had seen the box art before, but it's a RPG, kind of an isometric view RPG. And it was originally on the PC, I believe, and it's a point and click kind of thing. Definitely a game I want to try, because I mean, an RPG that I've never heard about is extremely exciting in so many ways, even if the subject matter is not my preferred interest, but definitely cool to have and definitely cool to add to my little rental video game collection. Now the absolute coolest thing that I've gotten over these past 6 months is this right here. And this is also a rental copy, but it's a rental copy of a relatively hard to find and rare Sega CD game, and that is Robo Aleste. Oh, I'm so excited to have this a part of my collection. The first thing that's cool about it is, one, it's a rental Sega CD game. The rental Sega CD and Sega Saturn games are so cool because you rarely ever see them. And when you do, they're usually in these kind of weird cases like this, which I think is just so utterly fascinating. And a lot of these companies, rental companies back then, would take the cover art of the old jewel case, take the back out, take the manual, cut the front page of the manual off, and put it in this little slip cover here. So this is technically a complete copy. And this game goes for like $130 plus. I got this, I think I paid $70 for it. Granted, it's in technically bad condition. But it does have the manual, and you can see they actually photocopied the front cover, because the front cover of the manual is right here, so they did a little photocopy, and it's actually, in decent condition overall. And then the jewel case here, and you have a copy of Robo Aleste. Now, this is a game that I have very little experience with. I had heard of it, I've known of it, and I knew that it was a top-down shooter, which is right up my alley. But again, I had never played it, so I popped it in and I was watching the intro to this game. It's like a 6-7 minute intro, man. It is long, and it is very cinematic and very 90s FMV, it is what it is, but I love it dearly. But what I've played of the game so far, it is very hard. Extremely hard. I was playing on the normal difficulty. You can lower it. I'll definitely have to lower it. But it is a beautiful, beautiful game. The music is killer. The art is stunning. The animations that you see in the game are also really, really cool. It's a really awesome anime art style, which I love, of course. And overall, really, really great experience. And this was actually included on the Sega Genesis Mini home console, the second revision. So that's another way that you can get this game and save some money and get a whole bunch of other games alongside it. But yeah, that is Robo Aleste, and by far my favorite pickup of these past 5 months or so. So, another really, really exciting thing is I picked up some Sega Saturn games, and Sega Saturn is just so hard to collect for nowadays because it's, one, so expensive, and two, it's just so expensive. It's so expensive. It's way too expensive. And I love this system. I've collected it since I was a kid. I remember being 12, 13, 14 years old, going to these old expos and garage sales looking for Sega Saturn games, and even back then it was so incredibly hard to find, and it was also expensive back then, much less expensive than it is now. So the majority of my Sega Saturn collection I bought 10 years ago, and of course I've bought games since then, but this is probably the most amount of Sega Saturn games I've picked up at once in the past 10 years. So this is really, really exciting. Nothing groundbreaking, but still, just finding these games for a good price was exciting enough for me. So the first I had, this was a standalone game I got. This is Sonic Jam. I've wanted Sonic Jam ever since I was a kid. I remember going to the expos when I was young, seeing Sonic Jam. I think back then it was $60 or something for a complete copy, which I would pay in a heartbeat. In fact, that's about what I paid for this. So I wanted Sonic Jam mainly because of the 3D Sonic level. It's the only way to experience Sonic in 3D on a 32-bit system, and I always wanted to experience that, and I finally have been able to, and it's so cool, man. It's so cool experiencing Sonic in a way that I've only ever seen on YouTube. I mean, this is 10 years. 10 years I've been watching Sonic Jam, just wishing that I had a copy of it. So yes, as I said, I paid $60 for this. I don't know if that's a good deal or not, or if it's even fair, but it has the front cover of the manual. So this isn't a printout, rather they cut the first page of the manual out and they used it as a CD cover. So it's kind of cool that I have the manual, but still just really, really exciting to have. And we're at that point now with these Sega Saturn games to where if you want to get them and you want to experience them at a relatively affordable price, the only thing you can kind of do is to do what I did and get them either in extremely poor condition, get them disc only, or find some other workaround. I can't put this back in. Find some other workaround where it's like this, where it's the front page of the manual with the game. But regardless, just super exciting to have, and yeah, super fun to play too and experience a relatively unknown part of Sonic's past. Now, these games here were a part of a lot. I got this lot for $55, which I thought was an insanely good deal, since one of these games tend to go for over that. So all of these games are games I don't have, with the exception of one, and that is the game that is worth the entire collection. However, this is a different variant than I have. So starting off, we have Virtual Fighter 2, and this is the copy that came with that cardboard box of 3 different Saturn games that were like $20. I remember seeing this box all the time at Expos, brand new, for like $20 back in the day. Never picked one up, kicking myself for it now, but it's cool to finally have Virtual Fighter 2. Again, this is a version I've never played. I've only played the original Virtual Fighter and the Virtual Fighter remastered on the Sega Saturn, both of which I very much love. And I played this the other day and I was just like, wow, this looks so much better than the first Virtual Fighter on Sega Saturn. But yeah, very, very fun fighting game, and excited to have this in the collection. This is a disc-only copy of Wipeout. Again, another game that I've wanted to experience. I've seen Wipeout on the PlayStation 1, and I knew it was out on the Sega Saturn, but again, it was always just a little more than I wanted to pay, and so finally getting it a part of this lot was cool, and I played through basically the whole game the other day, and I have to say I am so extremely impressed with how smoothly this game runs on the Sega Saturn. It's actually astonishing. But the music is 90s, and the gameplay is actually pretty intuitive, and it feels good, and there's a decent sense of speed, which is not something you can say for a lot of Sega Saturn games, but it looks good, and that's definitely something you can't say about a lot of 3D Saturn games. So excited to have this in my collection as well. The least exciting of the bunch, that is Breakpoint Tennis. Again, came with a lot, but it came complete, and it actually came with a really pristine case, so I switched that out with one of my other Saturn games. That's another thing, is all the games that came with this have really nice cases, which is just so hard to find. I played this for like 5 minutes, and you just hear the announcer go, "Love, 15 love," and he talks like this, and it's just a throwback to 90s answering machines, and it's so lovely.
40 love.
But yeah, I'll never play this again, but it's still cool to have. And this is a game that I've wanted for a very long time too. So I've had a fascination with theme park simulators like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Thrillville, if you guys remember that on the PlayStation 2 and Wii and all that, and Planet Coaster. Had a huge fascination with them. And one of the most fascinating ones for me was a game called Theme Park, which to my knowledge is one of, if not one of, the very first theme park simulators, and I think it actually is the first. made by Bullfrog Entertainment or Bullfrog Media, and I had a copy of this on the DS, and I remember just going on YouTube looking at the history of it, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, I want to be able to play it, and I got it for the DS, and I was like, this is kind of fun, but it's not as good as Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I still stand by that to this day. However, I can't deny the fact that the history of the game is so cool to me. It's very much an important video game and video game history in general. And the sim genre and the roller coaster genre, all of that. We wouldn't have Planet Coaster, I think, if we didn't have this one. And that is Theme Park on the Sega Saturn. And back in the day, I believe this is probably the best way you could play this game, with the exception of the PC. It also came out on the Sega Genesis, and I'm not sure if it came out on the PlayStation, this version anyway. But yeah, I played through this a little bit. It's very hard. It's a hard game to understand, and it's very kind of clunky, but it has so much charm. A lot of charm. And there's this one section of the game where you can like negotiate with another person, and you have a hand and you're like reaching out trying to reach an agreement on price. That was always a really fun mechanic. But it's super cool to have this. The full motion video is kind of creepy. Really creepy, actually. And the music is kind of annoying. But very happy to have this, because I do love this game. I love this game. Even the annoying music is kind of charming, and the graphics are charming, and the gameplay is charming, and you know, it was the first, and that is definitely something that we have to admire. So, Theme Park on the Sega Saturn. Now, the game that was worth the lot, in both price and in terms of quality, I have the not-for-resale version that came with the 3D control pad, and right away, you diehard fans will know which game I'm talking about. And I had gotten that years ago when I was young. It was one of the very first games that I wanted on the Sega Saturn, and one of the very first games I got on my collecting journey. But there's also a long box variant that I had never had until now, and that is Nights into Dreams. And this has a not-for-resale sticker on it, but it's only on the case, and I had never seen this before, and I don't know the meaning of this. I don't know if this is just Nights swapped into a different case that happened to have this not-for-resale sticker. I don't know if places bundled this game with the Sega Saturn consoles. I have no idea. So if you actually happen to know what the meaning is behind this not-for-resale sticker, and if it even belongs to this copy of Nights into Dreams, please let me know in the comments below. But regardless, Nights into Dreams is such a magical game. I absolutely love it. I play the Christmas version, the demo disc, every single year. And yeah, it's a clean copy, super cool to have, even has a little phone strip. And yeah, again, this is worth the $55 in itself. So having this on top of all of the other games in that lot was such a rare find, and something that you definitely do not see that often in regards to Saturn games. So that was honestly a very big treat these past 5 months, is getting to unbox that and experiencing that kind of kiddish magic that I used to feel back in the old days. Because again, nothing really quite makes me as excited as unboxing a brand new Sega Saturn game. Now, I actually did forget, I do have one more big lot that I bought. And for those of you who know, you know that I love demo discs. And I found a huge lot of Xbox Gaming Magazine demo discs. And I think there's like 25 demo discs or so in here. And I paid like 15 bucks or something for it, $15-20. And this is so cool. I had no idea there were so many demos on the Xbox, and there are even demos in here dating 2006, like right on the cusp of the Xbox 360. And I mean, again, there's just demos upon demos in here. I do not have an original Xbox, and so this has just been teasing me in the corner, just begging to be played, and I have no way to play these games, which is such a shame. So getting an original Xbox is very, very high on my priority list. Unfortunately, they're kind of expensive, so haven't quite bit the bullet yet. But I mean, this is just so cool. I'm so happy to have this in my collection, and I'm excited to get even more of these demo discs and maybe make another video talking about all of the Xbox demo discs. But I have a feeling that'll be quite the endeavor, since, my goodness, there were a lot of demo discs. And lastly, of course, I forgot, Metaphor ReFantazio. Not a retro game, but I completely forgot I had it on the corner here. Again, having a great time with it. And I got the collector's edition here too, which is a really cool collector's edition, but it's all like torn and everything. And if you open it up, you can see, you can't really see, but the inside cardboard's all torn up, and apparently this has been a common issue with these collector's editions, which is quite a shame. But again, I didn't want to go through the hassle of returning it, so I kept it. But the collector's edition contents are definitely really, really cool. And last but not least, it wouldn't be a pickups video if I didn't have any video game vinyl. And I didn't pick up that much, but the ones I picked up are definitely very special. So the first thing I got is Sea of Stars, and a company was putting this on sale, and this was the edition that was signed by the composer, which is super, super cool. And you can see his signature right there. It's a very beautiful looking signature. But this is one of the cooler editions of video game vinyl, or vinyl in general, that I've seen. The front here is all embossed, so it's all textured, and it's such beautiful, beautiful art. And there's the inside here too. I think it's like every character in the game or something like that. Again, I haven't really played the game, but yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful edition, and I'm so lucky to have a copy that's signed by the composer. I can put this, oh my gosh, how did I even get it? There we go. Yeah, super cool. Very happy to have this. Haven't listened to it yet because I'm waiting to play the game first, but something that I have listened to is Persona 3 Reload. This is the edition that came out by I Am 8-Bit. This is specifically the remake soundtrack, and this is wonderful. This box is beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful looking covers I'd ever seen. And the records inside actually have this kind of holographic pattern on the discs. It's really, really beautiful. And unfortunately, my original copy of this came all squashed in the mail, but I Am 8-Bit was kind enough to send me a replacement box, which I was very, very grateful for. But as I said before, I've listened to the whole thing on vinyl. It sounds wonderful. It is a great pressing, and this is just something that every Persona fan needs to have. Any music fan needs to have. And now I can add this to my Persona vinyl collection here. And yeah, I mean, how cool is it to be alive in a time where Atlas is putting out their games on vinyl? That is one of the last companies that I would have thought that we'd been able to buy these soundtracks on vinyl. It is so cool. Persona on vinyl. Oh my gosh. What a world we live in. Anyways, that's my pickups. It was a long one. It was actually a little longer than I was expecting. So if you stuck through, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Did you guys pick up anything interesting in the past several months? Is there anything you picked up of note, or maybe something that was just so dreadfully awful? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, I appreciate you all so much, and thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.